The tranquil Nile waters, a peaceful sleep journey. The tranquil Nile waters. Beneath the soft, silvery glow of the moon, the Nile River stretched endlessly across the landscape, its waters shimmering like liquid silver under the heavens. The night was calm, the air cool and soothing, and the only sounds were the gentle lapping of the river's current against a small wooden boat. A gentle breeze swept across the water, carrying with it the delicate, sweet fragrance of blooming lotus blossoms that floated peacefully on the surface. In the boat, a tired traveler sat alone, his back resting against the wooden side. The boat drifted slowly with the current, taking him deeper into the quiet solitude of the river. The world seemed to be at rest. Only the rippling water and the occasional call of night birds disturbed the peaceful silence. It was a soft, comforting melody, lullaby created by nature itself. Each note of the wind, the water, and the birds blended harmoniously into a peaceful symphony that invited relaxation and sleep. The traveler, weary from his long journey, leaned back, allowing the boat's gentle rocking to soothe him. His body surrendered to the rhythm of the water as his mind, too, began to quiet. The starlit sky above twinkled like ancient eyes, watching over him, their soft light a reminder that the universe was vast, but here on the Nile he was safe and at peace. As his eyelids grew heavier, the stars seemed to guide him further into a state of calm, like the gentle pull of the river itself. In the traveler's mind, the river transformed. No longer just a body of water, it became a path of serene wonder, winding through lush fields of green and forgotten temples bathed in golden light. He drifted deeper into this dreamlike world, where the past came alive. The air was filled with the sound of ancient voices, priests whispering their chants and lullabies to the gods, their words floating across the water like a gentle breeze. The voices of the priests carried with them an ancient peace, a wisdom that seemed to flow with the river. The traveler felt the whispers wrap around him like a protective blanket, as if the gods themselves were watching over him and guiding him on this journey. The river, once a mere current, now felt like a sacred stream, leading him through realms beyond the waking world. He surrendered to its flow, his heart light and his mind free from the worries of the world. As the boat continued to drift, the traveler felt himself floating deeper into sleep. The world around him became a blur of soft moonlight, gentle ripples on the water, and the soothing lullabies of ancient priests. The stars above shone brighter, their light filling his dreams with calm and tranquility. He was no longer just a traveler on the Nile. He was a part of its endless journey, carried along by the quiet, comforting embrace of the river, where time stood still and peace reigned forever. In that moment, the traveler let go completely, surrendering to the tranquility of the Nile. And as he drifted into a peaceful, dream-filled sleep, the river continued to carry him deeper into the heart of Egypt's timeless soul, the lotus garden of the pharaohs. Deep within the sacred temple gardens, under a canopy of tall, graceful palm trees, the night air was thick with the sweet fragrance of blooming lotus flowers. The garden, bathed in the soft glow of the moon, exhaled a peaceful tranquility as the stars above twinkled softly, casting their light across the lush greenery below. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the trees, sending a soft sigh through the garden that seemed to echo the quiet serenity of the night. A lone scholar, weary from his long hours of study, wandered through the garden, searching for a moment of peace. His mind was full, his thoughts heavy from the weight of knowledge, but as he stepped deeper into the lush sanctuary, calm began to settle over him. The air was cool and fresh, filled with the scent of the blooming lotus, each flower more delicate than the last. He made his way to a quiet spot by the tranquil waters of a small pond and sat on a smooth, cool stone bench, allowing his body to rest. The world around him seemed to slow. The rustling of the leaves above became a gentle melody, a lullaby that whispered through the trees, blending with the faint, rhythmic sounds of the temple in the distance. The soft chants of temple priests reached his ears, their voices floating across the water like gentle ripples. Each note of their song seemed to wrap around him like a warm, comforting embrace, easing the tension in his mind and body. As the scholar closed his eyes, he felt the weight of his studies fall away. His breathing deepened, slowing with each breath as the soothing sounds of the garden enveloped him. The soft murmurs of the evening merged into a harmonious symphony, and he could feel the presence of something ancient and wise surrounding him, an unseen force that had been a part of the land for centuries. It was as if the very soul of the garden, the gods themselves, had come to rest beside him, offering their peace. In his dreams, the garden came alive. The soft moonlight cast a silver glow across the lush paths, and the scholar found himself walking through the sacred grounds, each step carrying him deeper into the heart of the temple's sanctity. The lotus flowers, with their delicate petals, seemed to whisper their ancient secrets, their voices a soft murmur that filled the air. The fragrance of their blooms wrapped around him, pulling him further into the dream, as if he were walking through a world where time had no meaning. The gods, always present in the garden, watched over him with silent eyes, their ancient wisdom a comforting presence that guided his every step. The scholar wandered the winding paths, feeling the soft glow of the moon guiding him through this dreamlike realm. Each step he took seemed to carry him closer to a state of perfect peace, as though the garden itself was nurturing him into a deep, restful slumber. As he continued through the peaceful, moonlit garden, the scholar's mind began to slow, his worries slipping away like water flowing through the streams. The soft breeze and the gentle hum of the evening faded into the background, and all that remained was the presence of the eternal garden. Here, in this sacred space, he was at rest, his mind open and free, his spirit guided by the wisdom of the ancients. The lotus flowers whispered one final lullaby, and as the scholar surrendered to the serenity of the dream, the garden embraced him fully, guiding him into a peaceful, restful sleep that would carry him through the night, deep into the embrace of the gods' eternal care. The silent temples of Luxor. The grand temples of Luxor, though abandoned by the ravages of time, stood tall and proud in the moonlit desert. Their stone columns, carved with ancient hieroglyphs and stories of forgotten kings, stretched toward the heavens like silent sentinels. The moon bathed the ruins in its soft, silvery glow, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and dance across the weathered stones. The wind whispered through the temple's open halls, its cool breath brushing past the crumbling walls, carrying with it the faint, lingering echoes of chants and prayers that had once filled the sacred spaces. A lone traveler, weary from his long journey across the vast desert, wandered through the ruins. His footsteps were soft against the ancient stone floor, and his breath was slow, each exhale a quiet release of the exhaustion from the road. The stillness of the temple embraced him like an old, forgotten friend, and the air was thick with the weight of history, as though the spirits of those who once prayed here still lingered in the quiet of the night. As the traveler ventured deeper into the heart of the temple, the atmosphere around him shifted. The air grew heavier, more tangible, as though the very stones themselves were alive with the whispers of the past. The traveler paused, his gaze falling on the great stone statues of the gods, their carved faces stoic and eternal. Their eyes, though lifeless, seemed to hold a knowing presence, watching him with a quiet wisdom that spans centuries. He sat down on the cool stone floor, his back against one of the statues, allowing the night air to wash over him. The desert had become still, save for the soft rustle of the wind as it made its way through the temple's columns, creating a peaceful, almost reverent hum. The traveler closed his eyes, letting the serenity of the place sink into his very being. In the distance, the wind began to take on a new rhythm, a soft, melodic whisper that carried with it the faintest trace of a lullaby. It was as though the temple itself, ancient and sacred, was singing to him, a song from a time long past, where the halls were once filled with music, prayers, and the divine presence of the gods. The traveler felt the air around him shift, the atmosphere growing heavier with a divine peace. It was as though the spirits of the temple were gently guiding him into a deep, peaceful slumber. His mind began to drift, floating back in time, as though carried by the wind itself. In his dream, the temple came alive once more. The stone halls echoed with the voices of priests and priestesses chanting sacred hymns, their words reverberating through the air, alive with power and devotion. The gods, large as life in their stone forms, watched over the ceremonies with silent approval, their presence both overwhelming and comforting. The traveler wandered through the temple in his dream, his senses alive with a divine energy that filled the air. He could feel the presence of the gods around him, their wisdom flowing through the sacred halls like a quiet stream. It was a place of eternal peace, a space where time had no meaning, and where the soul could rest in the embrace of something much larger than itself. As the lullaby of the wind became more pronounced, the traveler felt his body relax, his breath deepening and slowing. The temple, in all its silence, had become a sacred cradle, rocking him gently into a state of restful sleep. The whispers of the past wrapped around him, and he felt the wisdom of the gods blanket him like a comforting presence, guiding him through the corridors of time. In the quiet darkness of the temple, the traveler let go completely, surrendering to the ancient, eternal peace that surrounded him. The gods whispered their secrets to him as he drifted deeper into sleep, the sacred halls of Luxor cradling him in the comforting embrace of dreams. The quiet desert dunes. Beneath the vast, starry sky, the desert stretched endlessly, an infinite sea of golden sands undulating with the night's cool, dry breath. The moon hung low, casting a silver glow over the endless expanse, where every dune seemed to rise and fall like the breath of the earth itself. Far from any village or bustling life, a lone nomad sat by the flickering warmth of his small campfire. The flame danced in the stillness, its light flickering against the backdrop of the vast desert, a tiny beacon in the sprawling wilderness. His camel rested nearby, its silhouette outlined against the soft horizon, patiently waiting for the morrow's journey. The air around the campfire was cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the heat of the desert during the day. The nomad sat cross-legged on the warm sand, his eyes closed, breathing in the dry, earthy scent of the desert. The wind moved gently through the dunes, a soft, rhythmic whisper that seemed to carry with it ancient stories. It was as though the desert itself was speaking, its voice a lullaby of time immemorial, soothing and serene. As the nomad settled deeper into the stillness of the night, he felt the quiet presence surround him. The sand beneath him felt warm against his skin, grounding him in this timeless place, while the fire crackled and popped, sending sparks into the cool night air. Each ember that rose seemed to carry with it a part of the desert's eternal soul, a soul that had watched over countless travelers, guiding them through this land of silence and solitude. The stars above twinkled with ancient brilliance, their light distant yet near, like the silent eyes of guardians watching from afar. In the stillness, the nomad could feel the weight of the desert's history pressing gently against him, a weight not of burden, but of quiet wisdom. The wind shifted, its soft hum turning into a melodic whisper, as though the desert itself was singing a song of the past. The nomad felt it, stories of those who had crossed these dunes before him, stories carried in the desert's breath, drifting with the wind like fragile dreams. With each note of the wind's song, he felt himself sinking deeper into the embrace of the desert. The guardians of the dunes, ancient as the sand itself, seemed to wrap him in their silent watchfulness. They had always been here, just beyond the veil of the ordinary world, and now, in this moment, they were with him, silent, but ever present, their gentle protection a comfort as soothing as the night air itself. The fire flickered one last time, and the nomad took a final deep breath, surrendering himself fully to the quiet embrace of the desert night. The sounds of the wind, the crackle of the fire, and the distant murmur of the sands merged into a gentle lullaby that carried him closer to sleep. He felt the sand cradle him as if it were an ancient mother rocking her child, guiding him into a peaceful slumber, away from the weight of the day and into a world where time was forgotten. The stars shimmered above, their light a soft, eternal promise, as the nomad's mind drifted effortlessly across the dunes. His dreams floated like wisps of sand, carried on the gentle winds of the desert. In this peaceful realm, there was no past, no future, only the present moment of perfect stillness, a moment where ancient wisdom and dreams intertwined, and the desert whispered its secrets to those who listened.